name is Robin Livingston. Many of you may have known me in the past by another name, but I invite you now to know me by this one and celebrate this joyful change with me. So my name's Robin. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Amherst. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old, in the Zoom and in the sanctuary. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Today, we will reflect on all the ways that covenant shows up in our lives and our communities, and what it means to go with one another in covenant and community. You may notice I am not wearing a mask today. Our Board of Trustees amended our COVID policy to make masks optional when cases are low, and you can find more information on our website. Those who choose to wear masks are welcome to sit anywhere in our sanctuary, but we ask that unmasked attendees reserve the balcony for those who are wearing masks only. Our call to worship this morning comes from Reverend Manish Mishra Marzetti. Between rocking the boat and sitting down, between stirring things up and peaceably going along, we find ourselves here in community. Each called from many different journeys, many different life paths onto this river road. Some are here because the rocking of the boat has been too much tumult, too much uncertainty, too much pain. Some are here with questions about where the boat is going, how best to steer it, where this journey ends. Others are here as lovers of the journey, lovers of life itself. Here in the front, beside, behind, each a passenger, each a captain, doing the best we can. Rest here in your boat with me, the river calls. Listen to how I flow, the sound of life coursing all around you. Let the current hold you. Let the current guide you. The river that gently flows through your soul whispers, "Come, let us worship." I invite you to say the chalice lighting words with me. They're on the screen or in your order of service. We light this flame to invite a world of peace, where we heal the wounds, where we share what we have with one another, where justice is another word for relationship, and we listen for what love has to say. These August services are a little different than services during the program year. So many people pull together to make our services happen week after week. And to continue the summer break, we're making the services happening with a little bit of a smaller crew. Our technology is a little bit simplified. And all of us are called into service as greeters while the Ministry of Welcome and Membership are on break. So to that note, I invite you to greet the person next to you and someone you don't know yet. To those on Zoom, you can use the chat to say hi or turn on your cameras and wave. So go ahead and say hello. At a simple level, a covenant is an agreement. The word covenant comes from the Latin convenire, meaning to go with. In Unitarian Universalism, we are not bound by a creed, but we commit to each other in covenant. We commit to go with one another. Our covenants are our promises to each other that we make together as a community. The words we use in our covenants have meaning, and we participate in the practice of writing them together because the process of articulating our commitments to one another holds our communities and our relationships as sacred, as worthy of respect and care and nurturing. In our annual meeting in June, we voted on a covenant for our congregation. I think I put the words in a slide in the wrong order. So if you'd like to read those words with me, I invite you to do so now. Love is the spirit of this community. We dwell together in peace. We seek truth and justice in love. We honor everyone's worth and dignity. And we do the work of building the beloved community in our world. We have written into our bylaws as an organization that membership in our society means subscribing to this covenant. This is our agreement with each other. In UU spaces, we write covenants at lots of different levels. Our principles, values, and covenant at the level of the Unitarian Universalist Association hold us together as a faith community. In small group ministries, religious education classes, and committees, we write covenants that describe how we want to be in community with each other in each space. A small group ministry may include in their covenant to not participate in crosstalk in order to invite deeper listening and sharing, for example. There are similar values running through, but the words that most need to be said in each one are different. Each of those form a component of living into the world we want to inhabit. Whether we talk about them as covenants or not, many of us hold covenants with the people we are in relationship with. That might be as simple as an agreement you have with your roommate about how often you each do the dishes, or it might be as profound as your wedding vows. I encourage you to think about these agreements as covenants, as promises you make to each other. What would it mean for you to hold these covenants, little or big, as sacred, and to revisit them together every once in a while? Now, I could probably do another entire service about just this topic, so I can't do it justice today. But what I will say today is that critically, these commitments are not the same for any pair or group of people. There are templates that we have for what they might look like, but the most salient ones are those that we talk about with intention and adapt to our own circumstances. Adrienne Marie Brown talks about social organizing and collaborating in terms of fractals. Fractals are a pattern where the micro reflects the macro, like ferns or broccoli. In her book, Emergent Strategy, Adrienne Marie Brown says about fractals, quote, "How we are at the small scale is how we are at the large scale. The patterns of the universe repeat at scale. There is a structural echo that suggests two things. One, that there are shapes and patterns fundamental to our universe, and two, that what we practice at a small scale can reverberate to the largest scale," end quote. We can think about our own covenanting communities as fractals, each one on its own doing important work, and in combination with its neighbors builds a strong pattern that is visible at a larger scale. The patterns of what goes into each covenant must be different at every level. We need to tailor them to the specific context. I started my life as an independent adult in the height of the pandemic, disconnected from family, most of my friends, and any sense of community. I was untethered. I desperately needed to find my roots again. Part of that was resurfacing hobbies and communities that I had let go of over the years and recommitting myself to doing things that I love. But a lot had changed for me in a short amount of time, and part of this untetheredness was feeling untethered from myself. I needed to reconnect with myself and build a new relationship. Part of the work that I started doing when I committed myself to healing was to begin writing a covenant for myself. I won't say that it's done. It's also not formal. Right now it lives on the back of a bookmark. My covenant is a commitment to myself, to honor the way I treat myself and honor my body, mind, and spirit. And it's personal to me, my goals, my habits, and my pitfalls. It's a way that I articulate my intentions to live into my favorite version of me. One line of my covenant is to assert the space and place I need. Space is more about the physical space, and place more about the meaning we make in that space. This comes up for me in a lot of different ways, but it has given me a few boundaries that I insist on. I don't shrink myself to take up less space, and I don't apologize for the space or time my body or voice take up. It is also a bit less literal. One way this comes up a lot is that I have agreed that my whole self deserves space. My various commitments, jobs, and hobbies, the kinds of relationships that I want, my moments of rest, the way I want to be seen by others. I'd like to take a minute for each of us to think about individually, what might a covenant look like for yourself? So take a breath with me. And another. Take a moment to check in with your body and find a posture that's comfortable. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Is there one thing that you can do right now to get more comfortable? Maybe releasing tension in your jaw, stretching out your legs, or shifting in your seat. I invite you to do that one thing to make right now more comfortable. And take a minute to think about what might a covenant look like for yourself? What are the promises you would like to keep just for you? When I was in YRUU, the Young Religious Unitarian Universalist, which is what we called our youth group in my home congregation, one of the advisors asked us what the difference was between a covenant and a contract. We were all stumped. I'll give you a second to think about it. A contract is voided when broken. If you break a contract, the terms of the agreement no longer hold. But that's not the case for a covenant. In a covenant, we agree that even when the covenant is broken, the covenant remains intact. A covenant is not a description of how we already are in community with each other. It's an aspiration, a vision for how we want to be, a promise. The practice of writing covenants is something we bring to many aspects of our congregational life, and at its best, it's a collaborative effort adapted to the specific setting. At its best, a covenant is something we revisit and commit to throughout the year. You will very likely be asked to write a covenant in the next few months, review an old one, or hear the covenant for our congregation. I encourage you to consider, as you approach all of these covenants, not just what the community has been, but to imagine what it might be. And to remember as the year progresses that this is not a contract. The covenant is not voided when broken. But this does not discount that when a covenant is broken, that harm has been done. Not to penalize or punish, but to invite in healing. How do we repair the harm that is done when we are not living in our covenant? How do we practice a restorative justice? One that is both supported and accountable, and not punitive or dismissive. Our UUA and Congregational Common Read this year is a book called On Repentance and Repair, Making Amends in an Unapologetic World by Danya Rutenberg. Rutenberg builds on the work of Maimonides and focuses on the importance of repair. The 5 stages of repentance as listed on the book's site, whether at a large scale or a small one, are naming and owning harm, beginning to change, restitution and accepting consequences, apologizing, and making different choices. Now, I haven't read much of On Repentance and Repair yet, but I'm looking forward to digging deeper into it this fall together and thinking about how I can bring a framework of repair into my covenantal relationships at all levels, the micro and the macro. The words to the hymn we sang at the beginning of the service are adapted from a poem by Rumi. Here are the words we sang earlier. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. But these words omit a line from the poem. The full text of the poem reads, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again, come, come. We all fall short of the promises we make in our covenants, the spoken or unspoken ones with ourselves, our loved ones, our communities. We are not perfect. Our covenants are visionary and aspirational, and we write them knowing that we will break them. Again, though, if we've done a good job in writing them, our covenants will still hold after we fall out of step. This does not excuse the harm that is done, and it doesn't mean that repair isn't messy. Our Universalist values teach us that we are all worthy, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Was written by Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto. In this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star, and to the truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmer of an indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream, and by covenant and the movement forward of one right action and the next, we know that one day we will arrive home. I invite you to say the words for extinguishing the chalice with me. I maybe put them in the slides. Yeah. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Ours is no caravan of despair. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come.